everybody, it's Carrie and Ellie here. Today on our Why We Grow podcast, we met with Shelby DeVore. It was so interesting hearing about her background on starting gardening at a very early age and growing up doing this and then moving on to teaching students in high school ag classes and then now teaching online classes. She has such an amazing story and she's got some really, really great advice to send to everybody. And I hope that you all enjoy it as much as we did. Well, Shelby, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited for this chat. I know we've talked a little bit in the past and it's been so much fun. So I'm just excited to be here.
Well, awesome. Ellie's very excited to see you too.
Stop it. That is my youngest daughter's name.
Is
She's
it
2.
really?
It
Oh my
really is. Yeah.
gosh. Wow. What a small world. Huh?
Right? Yeah, yeah. Love that name.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I do too, obviously. So, tell us a little bit about your background. What got you into gardening?
Yeah, so I am originally from West Tennessee. I don't live there anymore. I live in Texas now, but growing up, we had a small homestead. So it was a little over an acre. And my mom actually did a vegetable garden that was about half that each year. So it was a pretty big vegetable garden that she did. And I don't know, growing up as a kid, I really thought that's just what everybody did. I learned later on very quickly that that's not what most people do at all. So I feel fortunate to grow up, with those experiences. But um, yeah, just basically every summer we would spend probably half the day tending to the garden, canning things. I have a lot of memories of like making jelly with my mom and putting tomatoes up and all of that kind of stuff. So it was just kind of second nature to me, growing up to feel like I was supposed to do that, And then it's funny when I left to go to college, I thought that that was normal to grow your own food. And so my first college apartment had a balcony and I filled it with vegetable plants. And it was a college apartment complex for the most part. And I remember my neighbors would like walk past my apartment balcony and be like, okay, like tomato plants and peppers and eggplants and all this stuff,
Oh, amazing.
So
You grew
yeah,
up that way you were in college?
I did. Yeah.
Oh.
I I I tried not to at first and I was like, this is weird to not be able to just like it's such a pain to go to the grocery store when I need like one tomato. So yeah, I grew a bunch of stuff on my patio and I remember people asking me questions like, is that stuff you can eat? And I was like, like the tomato? Yes, that's what a tomato plant looks like. And then it started to dawn on me like, okay, apparently not everybody knows knows this stuff or grew up this way. So yeah, it's been fun.
That is funny. So you said you grew up in Tennessee. Was that in
Yeah.
Tennessee also?
No. So I got my bachelor's degree at Mississippi State,
Okay.
and so that was in Starkville. Yeah.
So what all did you grow there? Like a little bit of everything, it sounds like.
Yeah, pretty much. It I did never try to grow, I guess, some of the cooler season crops. I pretty much just stuck with summer things. So I grew tomatoes and I love bell peppers and jalapenos. So lots of those eggplants. I tried to grow okra and corn, but that's not super patio friendly.
I was gonna say, how did you get on a patio?
Yeah, I mean, I got some stuff out of it, but it was not like the plants were stunted and it just was not awesome. So I didn't get a whole lot of that, but I'm sure it looked ridiculous on the patio.
That's awesome though. Well, so you're in Texas now. you said. Where
Yeah,
is this?
just north of Fort Worth.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is it down there growing?
I am learning a completely different growing season
Yeah.
or seasons, really. So, this is my second summer growing season here, and I completely killed stuff last year. It was totally different. So last or in the past, growing in Tennessee, it's very humid, it's very rainy, and we didn't really get hard winters, but there were four distinct seasons throughout the year.
Mhm.
Um, so like we would plant in like late April, sometimes early May, depending on the rain. And our summer garden would go through like October, which I thought was a really long growing season at the time until we moved here. And there's like, you can grow pretty much all year long.
It's amazing.
And you have really two summer growing seasons because June and July, the sun and the heat is just so intense and it's so dry that I have found out most of the gardeners here, they kind of take a break in June and July. So when other people's summer garden is like really just getting started,
Huh?
ours, you're basically doing one of two things. You either are like putting shade cloth over your plants and watering the heck out of them just to keep them alive, or you just let that die back and then you start a second summer garden, which was totally new to me. So last year, when June and July hit, the plants that I had, I was not prepared for the mass death that took place
Oh
in
man.
my garden. So I did some research and I saw a lot of people, doing kind of like the split summer growing season. And I was thinking, like, I never would have thought to try that, but that totally makes sense. And that's what we're doing this year. And it's made a huge difference. So I'm pretty excited for the temperatures to be coming back down so my stuff can start producing again.
Yeah. Do you start a lot of inside too?
Yes,
Okay.
lots of stuff inside. I don't know if you could see behind me, that's a little seed starter
Oh, okay.
back there. I pretty much start seeds. There's usually something in there growing, whether it's herbs or, stuff to go outside or even flowers. I start flowers sometimes. So
That's
I
awesome.
start a lot of seeds. Before I started my online business, I was a high school and college ag teacher, and our high school program had a commercial greenhouse, and we sold vegetable starts and flower starts. So
So
I've
great.
started thousands of seeds. I think it's 100% the way to go. I'm very, very anti buying nursery plants.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot more love, I think, that goes into it whenever
Yeah,
it's local.
yeah. And I think, oddly, that I think you can get a better quality plant that way too. Um,
Absolutely.
so what I found was when you buy plants from a nursery, you don't know anything about that plant,
It's true.
right? You don't know, I mean, obviously you can look at it and tell if it's nutritionally healthy, and you can see size and you can see if it has pests on it. But you don't know how old that plant is. And so it may look like the same size as the other plants that it's out with on the shelf, but I have found a lot of times that they'll pull plants that are the same size, not the same age group. So you'll get, all of your strong growers will go out in a batch, and then the ones that are a little bit slower that normally, if I'm starting seeds, those are the ones that I don't keep, right? Because they don't produce as well. They still get put on the shelf. So you don't know, like I said, the background of that plant.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's awesome. So, what age group of kids were you doing?
high school.
High school?
High school and college kids. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. How
Yeah.
did you get them inspired to help?
I think really, so I totally geek out over anything ag related and I get super into it. Um, and I think I just kind of draw people in. I think that's one of my gifts, like I can get people really excited about growing plants from seeds when normally they would not care at all. So it's just really fun to me to try to build the connection again between, where our food comes from and then the end product.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. So what makes you super excited about it, about growing food?
everything. That's like a trick question. It's hard for me to pick something. I think a couple of reasons, I guess I could say a couple of things. So number one, it is just so much fun to watch life being created and take place. And I don't know, there's just something about whether, you have chickens or if we're talking about plants that you started from seed, just I don't know, you just develop like this nurturing relationship with them that it's hard to find anywhere else. And I just think it's relaxing. I
Absolutely.
know a lot of people don't like to, like pull weeds and have to go out and water their garden and stuff. For me, that's like a brain break, like it's a mindless task that keeps my hands busy and I just really enjoy it. I think it's a great way to unwind. So,
Absolutely. I completely agree. It's almost like a meditative state. You just go out
yes,
there and work in the
yes,
garden.
yep.
That's awesome. So what are you currently geeking out on? Anything exciting?
Um, yeah, yeah. So I have a couple of things coming up that um I always get super excited for. So I have a summit coming up in October.
Uh-huh.
That's a livestock summit, and livestock is one of my favorite topics. Like I love, love, love talking about gardening. I'm a little bit more passionate about animals too, though. So um, I always enjoy that. And I am just excited that where I am right now, my second summer gardening season is starting to take off. When I tell you, like, we, took a break in our summer garden in like June and July, it was a little bit depressing because I felt like, I mean, I kept all of my plants from this spring. So, like my tomato plants and my eggplants and all that stuff, they're huge, but they're not producing blooms. They're not keeping them on. So I felt like I'm just, going out there and watering them just to keep them alive in hopes that they'll produce again in the fall. But they're starting to perk up. They're getting blooms on them again. So I'm pretty excited to see how they do this fall now that the temperatures are starting to cool back down.
So at your summit, are you going to be talking about different food to grow for them?
Um,
Anything like that?
A little bit. So we do have a couple of presenters that are going to be sharing actually how to use herbs with your livestock. And that is something that I'm super passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are just not aware of how effective herbal remedies and stuff like that are. And what's great about it is you can make all of that stuff at home. A lot of the plants you can even grow at home. So it's very, very accessible. So I'm excited to see what kind of things they share as far as their herbal remedies for their livestock.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. I would love to hear that too.
Yeah.
We have a lot
I'll,
of goats and everything here.
I'll have to send you an invite for that.
Yeah, so if people are watching now, how would they go about signing up?
Yeah, I'll send you the link to that too, but it's
Okay.
really easy to find. It's homesteadlivestocksummit.com. And the homepage, right now it's a wait list, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to open the door for registration. So you can just hop on and register for that. And
Awesome.
it's free to attend too. So
Very cool. Yeah, I'll definitely need to come attend a few of those classes. Sounds
yeah,
really fun.
yeah.
And you do a lot of different classes and stuff like that, don't you?
Yes. So I actually consolidated a lot of that material into one program earlier this year, and it's called the Garden Farm Thrive Academy. So just a little bit of background. When I was teaching in the classroom, I taught, honestly, I think if I added all up, it's like 17 different classes that I offered for high school students and college students at, any point during my 6-year teaching career. So
It's a
I
lot.
love teaching, yeah, I love teaching animal science classes, soil science, all of the plant sciences. I think if there's a topic that you could dream up that's related to agriculture, I probably taught it. So, I really like to hit all of the things, right? So, when I taught all of those classes, it was actually by choice, not because I had to. So I just really enjoy talking about, gardening for a little while and then chickens, goats, whatever. So I have the same setup with the Garden Farm Thrive Academy. People can come in and learn about gardening. We talk about food preservation, raising livestock, caring for, your land, the soil, your pastures, pretty much all of the homestead farming topics. We cover all of that in there. So, yeah, I'm always coming up with something to talk about.
That's awesome. So, what's your best advice for somebody who is just wanting to get into gardening? They're brand new.
Do it. One of the one of the things that I see so often is and everybody is guilty of this in some area of their life or another, but I think a lot of people suffer from analysis paralysis,
Mhm.
and they think, I don't know anything about gardening. So they try to go out and they try to learn all of the stuff. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do a little bit of research beforehand, but I see a lot of people that get stuck in that I have to learn everything mode. So my advice would be to do a little bit of research, give yourself a time limit. So maybe like a week and figure out a baseline plan. You're probably going to make mistakes. Even experienced gardeners make mistakes. So
Absolutely.
just the best way that you're going to learn is to get your hands dirty and actually do it. So get started. Always start from seeds. So don't be tempted to go buy the nursery plants. Start from seeds and just dive into it and learn as you go.
I'll save you a lot of money too by sticking with seeds.
So much money, so much money.
Yeah.
And I want to mention too that a lot of people will, look at the price of like seed starting equipment and they kind of balk at it and they're like, I don't want to spend money on trays or whatever. But as somebody that has started literally thousands of seeds successfully, that's the best option. Don't try to, DIY your stuff. There's a reason that greenhouse companies use seed sorting trays the way that they do. It's because it works and it's the most cost effective way. So that works for you also if you're doing stuff in your home. all of that equipment, if you take care of it, you'll get years of use out of it. I have seed starting, like this dome back here behind me that you can see the top of. I think it's 9 years old, and I'm still using it, and I paid like $30 for it. So over the course of 9 years, and the fact that I use it multiple seasons out of the year, I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Because whenever we first started, we were trying to save money by buying like the cheap seed starting stuff. And then once we switched to the Park Seed Biodome, we're like, whoa, we,
Yeah.
we didn't
Yeah.
even know what we were missing out on whenever we like, wow, you can actually
Yeah.
for more than one time. And
Yeah.
yeah, so overall, yeah, it definitely saves you a lot of money. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. We had, there was one year that we cheated, and we did buy, I guess, I don't remember exactly how much of our garden. This was when we lived in Tennessee, and we had a 1 acre vegetable garden that we planted out each summer. And when it was time to plant it out, I was like 8 months pregnant. And so I wanted to start everything from seeds, but my husband was going to be doing a lot of that. And he was like, I'm not messing with seeds.
Huh.
So he said, we'll just, certain things you can start from seeds, and then we'll just go buy plants for the rest. And to plant out what we usually planted out in our garden, I think we spent like $400 in plants.
Oh man.
And that blows my mind when I think about the fact that we could have started all of those plants from seeds indoors for like $50.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
amazing.
definitely worth it.
So, what have you found are the best plants for kids to get started with, since you have a lot of
Oh,
experience with them?
that's a good question. So, my kids are always in the garden. I've got three. So, an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, and then a 2-year-old. And they've grown up in the garden. Really, for them, when they were really small, I think what kept their attention the best were the fast growing crops. And a lot of that is your cool season stuff. So lettuce, radishes, some of the carrots, anything that sprouts quickly. If they have to wait on it to germinate, they are going to forget about it. They lose interest. So the sooner that it can germinate, the better. Now, the older they've gotten, that obviously changes. Their attention span is longer. And I will say, I am horrible at growing watermelons. I always have been. And I don't understand why, because my family in Missouri, they actually grow watermelons commercially for Walmart. So if you buy
Awesome.
watermelons from Walmart, it's my family has grown them. So you would think I should be awesome at growing watermelons, and I'm terrible at it. And I try most years to grow watermelons, and it's nothing ever comes out of it. So a couple of years ago, my son, I think he was 8 or 9 at the time, wanted to grow watermelons. And, I told him, Forrest, we can try, but I'm just gonna tell you, like, mom is terrible at this, and I don't understand. Like, I've tried all of the things. So, we'll just try it and see, but basically don't get your hopes up.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to completely manage them himself. So I let him do everything. Do you know how many watermelons we got that year?
Oh man.
So many.
That's
I
amazing.
I was like, okay,
You just
I'm
really
not even
wanted
gonna
it.
try anymore.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So he still picks on me for that. If we're talking about
He's
gardening,
the
he's like,
expert.
yeah, yeah. So
Huh.
I think and that's been something that he's really been proud of. So I think too, it's a great idea to give them the reins, maybe more than you're comfortable with. I am a perfectionist and tend to micromanage things, especially in the garden. And I have learned by having my kids out there that they learn more when I just let them take over something.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard because I want to be like, you need to do this or this, and I have to think to myself, like, just let them learn. This is a learning experience. And that kind of goes with, let them pick what they want to plant. If they want to plant purple carrots or, something crazy, just let them do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our son really, really wanted to grow strawberries. He absolutely loves strawberries. So we gave him an entire bed full of strawberries, and that is the one bed that he is nonstop going out there, taking care of his strawberries, weeding them out and all that. It's so
That's awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
He's only 5. Like he loves it, but he loves eating them too. So yeah, I think that's important too. Something that they
Yeah.
want, that they want to eat also, it'll help.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just like I'm sure the watermelon was. I would have loved to eaten that watermelon. Did you have the big ones or was it the smaller ones?
The little sugar babies,
Okay,
that
yeah.
they were pretty small. They were so good. And to this day, I still don't know why why he can grow watermelons so well. And I kill them every single time. I don't
That's
know.
funny. Yeah, I've the only watermelons we've ever had success with are the smaller ones too. Whenever we try and grow like the really large ones, same as something like pumpkins and all of that. If we grow like the really big ones, we never really have success. But if we get the smaller ones, we tend to get like an overwhelming amount. And we're like, oh, this is
Right.
great. So
Yeah.
we've just
Yeah.
learned we're like, we'll grow, just like you said, the sugar babies and then the smaller little pie pumpkins and all of that.
Yeah. Same. That's kind of the results that we've gotten when we've done pumpkins before. I know my kids every year are like, can we grow like big pumpkins to carve? I'm like, we can try, but we'll probably get a whole lot of, the little cute ones to put everywhere. So
Well, those ones are great too.
yeah.
So I know you did a summit because since I talked at it this last spring.
Yeah.
Are you doing
Yeah.
anything else like that coming up besides the livestock one?
Yes. So the Backyard Vegetable Gardener Summit is an annual event.
Okay.
So we'll have the third annual summit next spring, probably late March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect time for those looking to get into gardening.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
was the same like what URL, right? To find.
Mhm. Yes. And I'll send you those. So if you have like show notes that you want to post them in, I'll send you all those links.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure so that way everybody can find you.
Yeah.
And then are you on any social medias or anything like that?
I am. So I do have just my regular website, which is farminence.com. And then I have a Facebook page for that. So you can go on Facebook and look up Farminence and that shows up. I also have an Instagram that we are just starting to roll out. So there's not a whole lot of content on there yet, but we have a lot of plans for that. And I'm also on Pinterest.
Awesome. And I'm sure you talked a lot about your livestock and chickens and growing food, all
Yes.
of it.
All the things. All
That's
the
awesome.
things.
That's awesome. I love it because that's all stuff that I am super interested in too. Because we just moved
Yeah.
out to land in 2020. So, and before that, we had never had chickens or goats or anything like that. So
It's
it's
addictive.
yeah, it's a completely new experience for us. So we've loved it, absolutely loved it. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's have you heard people say, chicken math is a real thing?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we started out, we got like a dozen eggs to hatch, and then like yeah, immediately like we just got more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to try this Well,
Yeah.
I say
Yeah.
variety, but it's not variety. The breed and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand. We don't have chickens now. We have
Oh,
like 30 quail.
oh, fun.
So when we moved, we have a tiny backyard right now. So quail fit much better than chickens do. But before we moved from Tennessee, we had right when we moved, we had 56 chickens.
Wow.
And it just it literally snowballed. You know, we started with like, let's go to Tractor Supply and get like 6 chickens. And then it turned into this huge thing. And yeah, I like all of the breeds and all of the different colors of eggs in my carton.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was part of it. It is addictive. And then chickens convince you to try other livestock because they're so easy. So yeah, it has a snowball effect
That's
for
funny.
sure.
And I love how you knew 56 chickens. I don't know how you knew that. Like ours like are all completely free range. So like I know like several of them, like we have names for so many of them, but
Yeah.
like all the time I have new hens coming out with little babies and I'm like,
Oh,
oh, I didn't even know that you were sitting on eggs
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have any, we collected eggs every day. Ours were free range too. And um but we sold eggs.
Mhm.
So my husband, he'd sell them at work, and we were getting like $8 a dozen for
Wow.
eggs. So we were collecting eggs every day.
Yes. Oh, I
And
would be too if I were getting.
yeah, for sure. And making sure, that we got all of the eggs that we possibly could. But um one of the things that we did when we sold our eggs is we took pictures of all of our hens and uh, put the ones that were, laid the eggs or could have laid those eggs
Uh-huh.
on the carton, and people ate
That's
it
such a
up.
cool idea.
Yeah,
Love
they
that.
loved it. They loved knowing like the hen's name and what she looked like and what kind of breed she was, and they just ate it all up. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I bet. That sounds really cool. So what are you going to, you said you have a small backyard. So you have quail back there. Are you growing anything right
Yes.
now in your
I
backyard?
am. I am. So I have raised beds in my backyard, and I'm also experimenting with smart pots for the first time.
Oh, I love smart.
Um,
I'm a huge
yeah,
fan.
yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised because it's really dry here. So I was worried that that was going to be an issue because smart pots are breathable.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't see any difference in the soil moisture staying in the smart pot versus, in a regular container or a raised bed. So I've got all sorts of tomatoes. I'm basically testing out what's going to work here
Yeah.
this year. This is like an experimental year for me since I've killed most things last year. Uh, so I've got several types of tomatoes and several types of cucumbers that are growing. I have eggplants that are crushing it. Apparently, eggplants are, or at least the variety that I have planted, are extremely heat tolerant because they've produced even when we had like temperatures that were 117, 118.
Ooh. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
my
that's amazing.
eggplants are, yeah, I know. Everything else dropped blooms except for my eggplants. They are literally crushing it.
Nice.
We have jalapenos and a few different types of bell peppers that are growing.
Mhm.
And we just started, I guess about 2 weeks ago, um, corn, let's see, spaghetti squash, and green beans. So we're trying out the Three Sisters method, and we'll see if we can get that harvested before it gets too cold outside. I think we have time as
So
long as we don't
you
get
sound
an
like you
early
have a
frost.
pretty big garden then.
Yeah.
Just have
It,
your
yeah.
entire backyard filled and
I mean, you can walk around in my backyard.
That's how we were at our old place before we moved out here. We had the entire backyard just completely filled. Then we ran out of
Yeah.
space, so we had to move out to 5 acres.
Yeah. 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 Well, we're gonna move eventually and have more room, but it felt like when we went from having one entire acre planted out to like our yard right now, I think is like not even half an acre.
Uh-huh.
And then it's split up between the front and the back. And if they would let me, my HOA, we would totally garden the front yard too. But
Yeah.
I think we might get fined for that.
Uh,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
HOAs. Oh, I'm glad you can have quail because our last HOA wouldn't let us have any sort of animals except for dogs, cats.
yeah, typical pets.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we can have quail, and I am seriously considering, not that I condone this, seriously considering chickens. Even though if you read the fine print, I think it says you're not supposed to have them, but we may just try and see if we can get away with
Won't tell. We won't tell anybody.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we before we moved, we snuck in rabbits. We had rabbits and it worked really well for us. They gave us a lot of really good compost for the garden and
Yeah.
they didn't require a lot of space. They weren't noisy, so nobody obviously knew that they were even back there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about rabbits too for those same reasons.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, we got Flemish Giants, the really huge ones.
oh,
So we
yeah.
get a lot of poop from them.
Yeah.
So it gives us lots and lots of compost.
So that I am not super familiar with rabbit manure. Is that one of the ones that you can put just straight into the
Yes,
garden?
it is.
Nice.
Yeah, rabbits, and then I know goats you can. And,
Yeah.
and art, we have a llama too, so I know llamas you can.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan of doing those. And then worm castings, obviously, too. We did that when we lived in the city.
Yeah. Love worm castings. When I managed that commercial greenhouse that the ag program had,
Hmm.
we always made our own soil mixes.
Oh, that's great.
We always used worm castings.
That's great.
Always. That's such a good, if you have access to that, or, even if you don't, you can buy it and it's relatively cheap.
Hmm.
I love worm castings. It's great.
So what all did you guys put in your soil mix that you made?
It really depended on what we were planting, but generally speaking, we would do like a peat moss or a core blend, and we did vermiculite. We tried perlite a few times, but we actually had better success with vermiculite.
Yeah,
And
I've never been a fan of perlite.
yeah, I like it when I'm growing in a hydroponic system. So I don't know, have you done any hydroponic growing?
We have not. It's something that we want to do. We've been looking at it for a while, but we just haven't taken the plunge into doing that yet.
Yeah, it's its own beast,
It really
basically.
is. Yeah, I know there's so
Yeah.
much to learn.
Yeah. There is a learning curve, but it's very interesting how you can manipulate different things, because it's more of a controlled system. But so we grew in two different hydroponic systems. We had a gutter system that we did lettuce and leafy greens in. And then we also grew in a Beto bucket system. And that's the system where you have buckets that are all connected with an irrigation line. So each bucket is its own individual system, basically
Mhm.
connected by irrigation. And
What size
I really
buckets
like,
are we talking here?
do what?
What size buckets are we talking?
We had, I think, 5 gallon.
Okay, so just the regular 5 gallon bucket.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's really simple to DIY a beta bucket system in your backyard using 5-gallon buckets. But we found that perlite was one of the most efficient fillers that we could put our plants in, because in a beta bucket system, you have to put some kind of support in there for your plants and the root system. There's a ton of options. We found the most success with perlite. So when we would order perlite, we ended up using that for the hydroponic systems, and we used vermiculite in our regular soil mixes.
Very interesting. Yeah, we definitely need to look into doing some aquaponics. Are you doing it now?
A little bit. So I do it on a small scale inside, and I I love to experiment with things and see what all I can make work. So I have one of those arrow gardens right now that I think it's the biggest arrow garden they have, but when you compare it to other hydroponic systems, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty small. And I keep it on one of my end tables in my living room. Last Christmas, we grew 18 dwarf cherry tomato plants out of that system.
Wow.
So we were like up to our eyeballs in cherry tomatoes, which was great because our kids, they love cherry tomatoes. So they could they'd be sitting on the couch watching TV and could just snack on literally fresh off the vine cherry tomatoes.
That is so cool. What an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's fun. But you can grow, I mean, there's all sorts of dwarf plants that you can grow in those little hydroponic systems inside your house. And if you don't want to do like a dwarf plant, you can do, your leafy greens, your lettuce, a lot of herbs in there. So it's it's a ton of fun. You should definitely try it.
Yeah, you're making me want to do it. So what kind of fish have you used? Have you used?
Oh, so I have not incorporated fish. Well, I take that back. Just kidding. We have done we have grown stuff like in a beta fish bowl
Oh yeah.
on the top. So it's not like I wouldn't say like a true aquaponic system. But a lot of people will grow tilapia and trout and catfish. That all works really well.
Really wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say it's a very complicated system to keep everything like your pH and your nutrients correct, but if you can get it right, it's so efficient, like extremely efficient. So, and it's a lot less input once you get everything straightened out than you would see in a regular just hydroponic system that you're having to add your nutrients to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that we want because he loves to go fish and he brings back because we have a little pond here too, and he always like stocks it with some fish.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys would like it then. It's really neat and cool. I've seen a lot of them that are done really well, and it's really easy to set up. It's not quite as easy to, like I said, get everything in the right flow as far as your pH and your nutrients, but once you get that figured out, it's a really cool system.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, great. I'm gonna have to talk with you more about that. And you're gonna have to
for sure.
show me the ropes on all of that. I feel like we could talk for hours on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm an open book, so anytime.
Well, awesome. Yeah, we'll have to have you show us what to do, how to get all set up.
I can do that.
Awesome. Well, this has been super fun. Is there any last minute advice or anything that you want to mention?
Like I said before, just don't let yourself get stuck in the planning information finding phase. give yourself a time limit. I would say a week or so, and then buy what you need to get started and just get started. That's going to be the best way for you to learn.
Sounds great. Yep, that's definitely great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll make sure that we put in all of your social media links and the link to
Yeah.
the website and all that, so everybody can follow you and go attend some of your webinars. They sound really exciting. I'm looking forward to the livestock one.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you all those links real soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.